welcome to my channel. Today's topic is what if the problem is you? It's going to be a tough one. This is a pretty hard topic for some. You may actually find that if my words upset you or you start to feel uncomfortable, I can tell you it's your subconscious telling you you really need to listen and really take notes from this message. As I navigate and teach newer LOs and even seasoned vets on who they are and how they can become the top 1% in the mortgage industry, what I've noticed is in our industry, it's hard for people to take ownership. They have no ownership. Um, they don't take ownership of meeting their goals. They have no ownership of their mistakes. They have no ownership when things go wrong. This honestly is an industry wide type thing. Not going to drop any names on the professions, but I find that being a good partner and being on top of everything with me and my team, there's a lot of people pointing fingers. And so I definitely wanted to have this discussion. You see, I'm very well qualified to talk about this topic. For years, I held myself back with the lack of ownership. I would always try to find an scapegoat when things didn't work out or they just didn't work the way I wanted them to. It was always their fault. Rates were too high, realtor didn't do their job, the underwriter doesn't know what they're talking about, and so on and so forth. It just went on and on and on. The issue with this type of mindset is that you never grow. Anything you do, whether good or bad, in time becomes who you are. Let me say that one more time. Anything that you do, whether good or bad, in time will always become who you are. By always blaming everyone and everything around you, you actually start to lose yourself. You start to become the victim. You are the victim of everything. The reason is when you're fixated on outside things to blame, you leave yourself with no room to grow. Why would you need to grow if it's their fault? Why would you need to grow if it's the market's fault? Why would you need to grow when it's the company that you work for's fault? And the excuses literally can just go on and on and on. See, when I decided to make a change with my mindset by taking ownership of everything, my life changed dramatically. Though while I was still in this lack of ownership place in my life, I've always been a very successful loan originator. And so now what I've found is when I've changed my whole perspective, even when things go wrong, and I believe that I did everything I could, it's still my fault because there's always a lesson in every loss. There are no losses. There's only things for us to grow from and to learn from if you allow it to be a lesson. Let me give you some examples. Right now, you may pitch a client on a loan program and they don't use you and go with another lender. You may feel that this was the best program for them, or maybe your interest rate was too high and all of these weird feelings. But the problem is maybe you just didn't listen enough to what their financial needs were. Instead of saying this client is stupid or they just don't understand and they're going to get ripped off by that other company, you should start saying it's my fault for not asking enough questions to make sure I 100% knew exactly what they wanted. What did they want? Did I really know what it was? Did I ask the proper questions during the loan application process? Did I talk to them? Did I make them laugh? Was it a human experience? Did they understand who I was? These are things that you should be asking yourself instead of blaming the other person or blaming the client for choosing someone else, because that's what that other person did. Um, did you not ask for their commitment? Did you assume that after you pitched and they said, okay, sounds good, move forward, you locked in the interest rate, and then 3 days later they called you, said they went with someone else? Well, did you ask them for their commitment? Did you explain to them what it means to lock an interest rate with you and to move forward? Probably not. So when you blame others, you are always the victim. When an underwriter finds something you missed on a loan application, don't blame the underwriter. Hell, they're just doing their job. Ask yourself, what questions could I have asked on the application to ensure that I saw all the red flags that could ultimately kill this loan? By taking ownership, you will start to grow. You will no longer be the victim of every situation. When you stop blaming everyone else and start pointing the finger to yourself, some hard truths will come to light. You then have only two choices. You can learn to change, or you can choose to stay the same. If you stay the same, and believe me, it's your choice, just know that you are choosing the definition of insanity. You will be doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Shed this victim mentality and go to the growth side, because I promise you, nothing more growing will happen when you take off the blinders and you start just pointing the finger at yourself. You may say, but I really don't like where I work. I really don't like my processor. Then change it. If you can't change your processor, depending upon where you work, then invest time to provide them with more conditions for your loan up front. Provide them with a letter explaining how you came up with the income and how to navigate the complex issues of your file. If you've got holes in the gaps in the employment history, write a letter. Be on top of it. Get those letters of explanations from the borrower. Ask those additional questions during the loan process. The more you can be upfront on your files, and you're actually taking control. Because now that processor that doesn't work on your file for 2 to 3 days, it really doesn't lose any time because you're so far ahead of the game that it's going to still work out and fund faster, and it's still going to fund quickly. Plus, let me give you a little hint. Processors love when you do the extra things. When they get a file and they see that you've given them a letter, you've given them a blueprint for success, you've provided all of the bank statements, the W-2s, the pay stubs, the tax returns, whatever is required, they will pick your files first above anyone else. And once you start to actually gain that type of relationship with your processors, you can then call them and they'll give favors for you because they know that you're on top of it. Right? So you can either be the victim of, oh, my processor doesn't touch my file, or you can be the proactive one to where you now have leverage and control over all of your files to where you can even call them and say, hey, I'm sending a new loan today. Do me a favor. Can you touch it? I promise you, it's happened to me 1,000 times. When I call a processor, they know my files are tight. They're going to touch them first. So create that reputation in your in-house processing team if that's the route that you're currently working, because I promise you it will work. And so I wanted to just let you guys know, I really hope that this message finds you well. And I also hope that it finds you asking yourself some hard questions. The reason why you aren't getting loans or realtor partners isn't your lack of knowledge. It isn't the lack of loan products, or it isn't the market with its high rates. It's the fact that you haven't taken the time to look at your approach and change how you are conducting your business. Maybe it's the lack of time you put into prospecting. Maybe you don't go to enough open houses. Maybe it's the lack of time you spend coming up with different and unique ways of talking with people. Either way, business is still being done. As a top producer for 2 decades, I can tell you business is definitely still being done. The only question is, who is the business being done with? One thing I can tell you, it's not those who are pointing their fingers at others. It's those that are pointing the fingers at themselves. For more videos and content, check me out on my Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. And of course, we have all the whole social media platforms on the links below. My friends, have an amazing day and always stay humble.